Hello everyone and welcome back to Superboy Beyond. We have another commentary for you today. This is season 4 episode 20 entitled Metamorphosis, and we are watching this one purely because we quite like Rowdy Roddy Piper, and this is, it's the only episode he's in. It's not one of my favorites, I'll be honest with you, but it's, I don't remember it being especially terrible. So, it's been a few years since I've seen this one. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up loving it. But yeah, Rowdy Roddy Piper. They had a few good wrestlers in this, like including like Lex Luger as well, and there was another one, I'm sure, but I'm forgetting who. I'm sure there was another wrestler at some point.
Those are the only two that I can think of.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, we're just going to get straight into this. If you haven't seen any of our commentaries before, just know this is not like a typical YouTube reaction video. We will not be showing you any clips from the episode itself. What you'll have to do is get your copy of the episode and we'll count you in with a 3, 2, 1 play. And as long as you hit play when we do, you'll be watching alongside us. So get ready. 3, 2, 1, play. Now, yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't think maybe if there was a third one now. I think maybe it's because I originally assumed that the guy from West of Alpha Centauri maybe was a wrestler because he was so huge, but I think it turned out he was a professional football player.
Right.
American football, obviously, not British, because American football players are significantly larger than the British ones.
Yes, the British ones are more lithe. Our guys are more like, massive muscle.
Yeah, the British ones, let's face it, they stub their toe and they're on the ground, like hollering, like they're in so much pain. They're all such wusses. But
yeah, they're pulling a Peter Griffin when he's
yeah, yeah, the knee. Yeah, yep. I think if American football players were to, play British, I don't think the British would survive for very long. Entire teams just slaughtered by pure accident, just because, yeah. It is interesting that this episode sort of opens with like drag racing and stuff, because that's a trope that comes about. Like they did it in Smallville as well. They did it in Psych. Like as soon as the Fast and the Furious films came out, like street drag racing and stuff like this was just in every genre show. They all have an episode like this. But it's interesting that this one is pre-Fast and Furious because they're a little bit rarer.
Yeah. But remember, drag racing is something that's been done,
I mean, it's been done forever, isn't it?
Yeah, since the invention of the car.
Some damn good flying in this sequence, I've got to say. I always love when you see that sort of thing as well. And that's why we probably didn't see Justin at the start, because they just wanted to use an actual older actor.
Yeah.
Oh. Uh-oh, there's Lana. It's interesting that Lana didn't immediately just go over to him. I know she just kind of... We'll see later on why, a little bit of why she didn't, but...
It's interesting, though, that the character that Roddy Piper is playing here is essentially, he's like an homage to the famous fitness guru from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, Jack LaLanne.
Even I've heard of Jack LaLanne.
Yeah. And, Jack LaLanne, he did not embrace, trying to stay young. He let himself get older, but he stayed in shape. The character of Adrian Temple, as we'll find out, is the exact opposite of that.
Like I say, it's been a very long time since I've seen this episode, but obviously, yeah, he wants to stay young above all else. And I'm trying to remember if he'd let himself go at all. Is that what you were getting at? Maybe he'd let himself go slightly so he wasn't even staying fit.
No. He stayed fit, but he just wanted to stay young forever.
It's always good to have Roddy Piper in a show. The only complaint I have about this, and it's the same complaint I've seen a few people have, is just, you want him to fight Superboy. He's Roddy Piper. He's known to be, he's a wrestler initially. You want him to fight, and
but
you don't really get much.
Yeah, the thing here is that they're actually letting Piper act,
which I appreciate that, certainly. Maybe if it was a two-parter, we could have had both.
Yeah,
I guess they just had to make a decision, one or the other.
But his performance as Temple is so great because when you first meet him, and that's going to be in a few moments, he's so charming, and yet you can also see there's something wrong here.
This actor, the older actor there, I'm sure I've seen him in other things, but I can't for the life of me place it. Maybe when I edit this, I'll have to look on IMDb and see what else he's done, but he looks very familiar to me.
Yeah. His performance is so good too.
They're all, so far, I mean, there's not been a particularly bad performance. I mean, at the drag race, I mean, okay, a little bit cheesy here and there, but I mean, that's kind of the tone of that sequence while it was happening.
Just something behind that smile here. And I think when Piper was playing it, he knew that, and he was just trying to go with that.
Yeah, he's almost too friendly.
Yeah.
It's so friendly, it's suspicious. But, he's not quite gone far enough that it, in this scene, you can definitely sense more of it. There's something wrong. But I like how subtly he played it at first. I really just don't understand why Lana won't just walk up to Superboy or Clark and say, like, it's me. Like, if anyone can help her, it's him. Like, let's face it, like, for all she knows at this moment, like, the damage could be becoming irreversible. Like, I would have approached him immediately. Was that Lana's Jeep that we said in the last commentary? We couldn't remember if it was in season 4.
Yeah.
And there it is. There we go. That didn't take long, did it?
All right, the old age makeup on Lana doesn't look all that bad.
I've seen worse, but I don't know. I think they could have softened up. The brow looks especially strange. Like it's almost like that's Lana if she was old, but also a caveman.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very Neanderthalish, almost like a dark side brow.
Yeah.
But it's television. I'm sure they didn't have the budget to take, spend as long as they wanted to on stuff like this. Even something like Star Trek, I mean, they had considerably more of a budget for makeup effects. Plus, presumably, I mean, it's the same makeup team that worked on the entire show. Like, how often were they called on to do old age makeup? So I guess it makes sense that maybe it wouldn't be quite as good.
Now he looks really creepy here.
Yeah. I mean, who else can it be at this point?
Yeah.
That's one complaint I have for this, You got Clark and Matt both investigating this. You've got what Lana's saying now, and it's just like, I mean, I would take her at her word. Like, if she's saying that it's got to be him, it's him. I think part of the problem with the makeup as well is just the fact that just the way it moves, it looks very. The wrinkles don't move the way they would. Like those wrinkles wouldn't have necessarily formed in that way because as she moves her face, that's not where stuff is forming.
Yeah. I mean,
It's just
the chin they got great. I mean
the chin looks good. I would say around the eyes it's just too much. And the forehead is, again, it's just too much. They could have just softened it ever so slightly and it would have made the world of difference. The wig doesn't necessarily help as well. They could have at least got a wig that looked vaguely like Stacey's actual hair. Because just because she's aging, does that mean her hair is also growing at like 10 times the normal rate as well? Because surely you'd be able to.
Yeah, I think they
just watching her, it would be going past her knees.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just took a wig that was gonna kind of hide, the seams.
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah. It looks better when it's lit like this. In darkness, it looks better. And I mean, they didn't do such a bad job on the makeup on her hands.
And it's always nice to see,
Dr. Stern,
the resident doctor, Dr. Stern, who I assume was named after Roger Stern.
Possibly.
Could have been a coincidence, I've got a few Superman stories that Roger Stern worked on, so usually it's on purpose. I like Dr. Stern, and obviously I liked Professor Peterson as well. I always thought it was a shame we didn't have an episode with them together. Obviously, Peterson was referenced a couple of times in season 3 and 4, but we never actually saw him.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have an episode with the two of them.
I That's a question I'd love to ask, Mike Carlin, if he ever comes on, why did we never get Peterson back?
I guess it's just because Clark moved to a different city. But I think they did establish that Capital City was quite close to Schuster. Like they're both, I think both Schuster University and Capital City are supposed to be in Florida, or
Yeah.
the equivalent of Florida in the DC universe.
And now she's gotten even older. And I'll say the makeup on her face here doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, it actually looks better now that they're trying to make her look older. It's almost like they put them on in the wrong order.
Yeah.
It might just be because, the quality of the DVD is so low.
Mm. Watching this reminds me, I got to get that figure of Rowdy Roddy Piper as Nada from They Live, the 6-inch scale one, to put with my Superboy figures. Because the figure's wearing almost the exact same thing he's wearing here.
I do like Roddy Piper. I think he's one of those performers that his career should have been a little bit more successful than it was, in my opinion. I think he's a lot better than perhaps he was given credit for at the time.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that since he died, I think a lot of his fans, have really... It's something that comes up a lot. Like, I think his fans wish that his career had gone just a little bit better for him.
And this isn't the only time he's worked on a project for the DC universe.
What else did he do?
A couple of years before he died, there was an animated movie called Green Lantern Emerald Knights.
I saw that. That was good.
He was the voice of Bolfunga.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they did an adaptation of the famous Alan Moore story, of Mogo. And he was Bolfunga.
It's been a long time since I've seen that one. Out of the Green Lantern animated movies, I think First Flight is my favourite, but I think it's a lot of people's favourite.
Yeah.
Now, how cool would it be to actually have Nathan Fillion play Hal Jordan in live action? It's a shame that it's probably a little bit too late now.
Mm.
But I mean, he still looked good in Guardians 3, and he's on that The Rookie. He does look younger than he is. So.
Yeah.
And Hal Jordan is the sort of character that you could have him play older. You could just say, no, he's just been Green Lantern since since the 80s or something. You could even put some grey in his hair and have him play it that way. As if it's not just going to kill him.
Yeah.
It's like, by that logic, it's like, oh, I must put the blood of an animal in my blood to make me live longer. I will steal the blood of 1,000 tortoises. It's just like, the moment you inject it, it's just like you just die.
And again, the makeup here looks really good.
Mm-hmm. I've seen better, but I've seen a hell of a lot worse as well. So, I've got to give them props. It looks pretty decent. And it does look better than it did earlier in the episode when she was supposed to be slightly younger. Hmm. What a prick.
Well, he's about to get his just desserts.
Mm. There we go. And the makeup on him looks pretty damn good. I think his looks slightly better than Lana's. It's not perfect, but he looks old. The
It looks
hair
more
is the
realistic.
hair look. It looks a lot more realistic. His hair doesn't look good though. The hair looks awful, in fact.
Yeah. But remember, it's a synthetic wig that they're using. I mean, if it was a real hair wig, it might have looked better.
Yeah. There you go.
Again, while it's not a great episode, I mean, Piper's performance here is so good.
Mm.
I mean, even in this moment, you feel for him.
Yeah, the way as his head went down, the way he was shaking. Yeah, it totally works. I think this episode, yeah, like we said, it's not a particularly great episode, but I think the fact that Piper's performance is so solid works wonders for it. I think it works really, really well at times. It's not perfect. Should we give it a score out of 10?
Yeah, I would say this is maybe a 7.
I'd say I would even go 6.5. I don't
Yeah, I'm
know.
giving it the 7 just because of Piper's performance throughout.
Well, I think without Piper's performance, I would have given this maybe a 5 or a 6. I think his performance is what raised it. I'll give it a 7. You know what? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll defer to your opinion on this one. Yeah. Okay, let's give it a 7. I think maybe I'm just being slightly too harsh on it because I don't know. I don't think the makeup effects work anywhere near as often as they kind of needed to do this story justice.
Yeah.
I think it maybe if the show had just had a little bit more of a budget, maybe if they'd had, I don't know, if it was a time issue, or maybe it was just a case of the makeup artists that work on this show weren't used to doing old age makeup. It is, it's well known that is the single hardest thing to do in special effects makeup.
Although nowadays, if they were to do this episode, it would have looked, 1,000 times better.
Oh yeah, they would have. Just look at some of the recent Marvel movies. Like you've got the older Captain America at the end of Endgame, like how old he looked there and stuff like that. You could totally make this work. Or old,
although I gotta
Agent Carter.
Yeah, although I gotta say this, that sequence where you see old Steve, he looks more like old Clint Eastwood.
He does look very Clint Eastwood. You're right. Yeah.
And of course, the voice that Chris Evans is putting on, it sounds like Clint Eastwood.
Maybe that was the point. Maybe they figured that would be a nice little thing. I don't know. Who knows? But I think it looks really good. Old age makeup has gotten so much better over the years, and now that they use a lot of CGI with it, I don't know if necessarily it would have still looked good on television with today's special effects, like visual effects. I mean,
yeah.
But just in terms of old age makeup, I think we have come a long way. The technology has come a long way. Just the level of artistry has.
I have to say this. That episode of Star Trek, The Deadly Years from the 60s, the old age makeup on the 4 main crew members, Kirk, Spock, Scotty, and Bones, looked so much better than some of the sequences here.
Yeah. That's part of why I'm so.
And that episode was 30 years before.
Yeah. that's why maybe I am leaning more towards the 6.5 rather than 7, because I think it has been done earlier than this.
Yeah.
But like I say, there are some moments, there are some makeup effects in this that really do hold up. Like you pointed them out. Like, yeah, it works.
Yeah, I mean the facial work they did on Piper as well as on the hands, great. The hair work
I
on
think
Piper,
Piper is the makeup effect I think looks best out of the entire episode.
yeah,
It's just the wig that throws it off. I think it would have even been better if they just didn't put hair on him at all and just say, no, he would have lost his hair entirely if he hadn't used this serum or whatever. That
yeah,
would have maybe looked a little bit better. But yeah, I don't think it's a terrible episode. It's not a particularly great one, but I just wanted to watch it because I was in the mood to watch Roddy Piper, frankly. That's pretty much the only reason this is the episode that I suggested, yeah, it's a shame there's not more wrestlers in this show. Obviously, Lex Luger is probably the most iconic of the wrestlers that was in this. I mean, obviously, Roddy Piper is most iconic outside of the show. But Luger played a more iconic part in the show.
yeah.
Yeah.
But given that Piper was essentially playing an evil version of Jack LaLanne,
he did a damn good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame that presumably he dies by the end, because we keep talking about bringing in Vandal Savage and the guy from what is it?
Wish for Armageddon.
Wish for Armageddon. And like, it could have been interesting to also have Roddy Piper in the same episode and just did like a Battle of the Immortals type thing, but he wouldn't have fit in quite as well. But yeah. It might have been nice to have something more for Roddy Piper to do. Maybe we'll just cast him in a different role. We'll put him in glasses or something. It's the DC universe. You put him in glasses, no one will recognize him.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. We do hope you've enjoyed this episode, as we certainly have. And yeah, we'll be back next week. Maybe next week we can do something a little bit different. Maybe we'll go back to the Metallo spotlights or something, or who knows. We'll see what we fancy when it comes time to it. Although next week we may start reviewing Star Trek Strange New Worlds as it releases. But if we do start doing that, there's a good chance that the first one of those will actually go up before this episode you're watching now. So not much of it's not really news for you. You might have even watched it already. But right. See you next time. Thank you for watching Superboy Beyond. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and goodbye.